Welcome to Razzball Radio on the Fantasy Sports Network. I'm your host, Nick Capozzi, and it's Tuesday, so you know what we're doing. We're talking about the waiver wire. So let's bring in the most beautiful man in fantasy sports, Mr. Tehol Beddict. Tehol, welcome to Razzball Radio.
How we doing, buddy?
Look at you all dressed up, wearing the jacket. You're ready to go.
I'm a professional, Nick. That's kind of what I'm all about, and that's how I do it.
All right, well, let's see how you do with these waiver wire pickups. You can follow him on Twitter at Beddict143. What does the 143 stand for?
It means I love you, and it's there for all of my followers because I love all of them, even those fake ones or movie quote people or whatever. Whoever makes these, I don't know who makes these things, but cool. I have like 5 different Chuck Norris type of people following me or Batman, whatever. I don't know, man. I love them, though. I love him.
LT loves everybody, and we love him. Okay, so Tehol, let's talk about. Actually, before we get to your waiver wire pickups today, some breaking news: no Sean Marino out for the season. So Lamar Miller, you're not going to get him right now, averaging 5.2 yards per carry. But Damian Williams, if you are looking for the handcuff there, or a guy who might get some opportunity, interesting guy, 0% owned. But be careful because in Miami there's 2 Damian Williams. A little bit confusing. All right, here's
Did that news just break?
Yeah, just happened.
Cool.
We break news here. We don't just drop knowledge. We break news. Okay, we didn't break it. We recycle breaking news. Razzball Radio. Okay, LT, let's get to it. First guy here on your list is Odell Beckham, 38% owned. Hasn't had a great start to the year. He's been okay. I mean, he's got 6 catches for 72 yards and a touchdown, so it hasn't been that exciting. But here's what's interesting. Victor Cruz obviously out for the year. And Larry Donnell has only had 1 catch for 6 yards in his last 2 games. You okay there? You want to get comfortable?
Yeah, sorry, my earpiece is falling out here.
I thought you were professional. I thought you were professional.
It's a new place. Sorry about that. Won't happen again.
Oh, that's right. You moved out of the beach house.
I'm out of there, man.
So you're buying Odell Beckham over Ruben Randle? Because there's an opportunity here for someone to emerge as the number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah, I'm not positive I'm taking him over Randall 100%, but I figured Randall is probably owned in more leagues. But Beckham is going to pop right into Cruz's spot. I feel like he's more a similar size, although he plays a little bigger than his 5'11" height. He explodes up at the ball like he's Des Bryant or something. He seems like he plays like he's 6'2", 6'3" at LSU, just a monster. And he's fast, man. He's gonna be good there. I think he'll be fine. And the reason I like him better than Randall just hasn't done enough for me. And I thought he was gonna be kind of a breakout guy this year, and he's been okay, but I was hoping for a lot more.
Yeah, it's been a strange offense, especially with Donnell getting the early opportunities. And it was funny because, I mean, it was the Larry Donnell show for the first few weeks, and then, like I said, last 2 weeks, 1 catch for 6 yards. So that's a situation to monitor. I'm with you. If I'm going to spend, I'll spend on Beckham just because I think he's got more upside than Randall. Let's talk about a running back from Jacksonville, which should make you queasy, and not because you ate bad shellfish in Jacksonville. Storm Johnson, 18% owned, only 3.4 yards per carry, small sample size. That offensive line has not played very well in Jacksonville, but Toby Gerhart has been awful. You think Storm's the guy to run with here rest of the season?
I hear his name everywhere last week, and I guess they had heard the coaches say that they liked him a lot or they were going to go with him.
Gerhart missed the game because of the foot injury.
Right. Well, I knew that, but what I was wondering is why they weren't going Denard Robinson or even more so my boy Todman, who looked fine last year when he got time. Like, I don't understand. Storm Johnson is a 6th, 7th round pick. He runs a 4.6, 4.7, 40 at the combine. There's nothing special about this dude.
Oh, he's smooth. He's a smooth runner. I mean, that's the one positive thing you could say about him. He's got a cool first name, I guess.
It's not Arian Foster. That's smooth. He's smooth. That's a smooth runner. Storm Johnson. Just because Arian went undrafted and Storm Johnson is the 7th round, I'm just not. I don't know what all the excitement is about. He got gifted a 1-yard TD. You got to go with him for now. Obviously, he needs to be owned. I mean, he's going to be the starting running back. But, yeah, that situation there is just ugly.
Do you think there's a situation where Jordan Todman actually becomes a starter this year?
Well, it doesn't look like it. I mean, they're going through everybody, and he's still, like, I don't know if they just like him as a scat back or what, but I thought he looked fine last year when he got some time at the end of the season. People were starting him in the fantasy playoffs. It was getting real.
All right, let's talk about another running back. This is a guy I really, really like. And going into the season, I like Terrence West a little bit in Cleveland. But Isaiah Crowell, this guy is dynamic. This guy, when he cuts like an elite running back. Now, obviously, Ben Tate, the main guy there, 78 yards and 2 touchdowns this week. But if you look at Tate's history of injuries, I would love to have Isaiah Crowell. And I'm surprised. 20% of leagues, he's owned it. That blew my mind because I thought just, as the season began and they were running the ball so effectively and playing so well, that he would have been owned in more leagues. But you like him?
I do. I mean, I've been a huge fan of him all season long, all preseason long. When they got him undrafted, I was like, this dude's going to make the roster. I had talking to people constantly how good this guy is. When he was buried early on in the depth chart in the preseason, people were like, oh, where's your boy Crowell? He's going to get cut, blah, blah, blah. And, like, obviously they were just trying to hide him. But he's nasty. I mean, this guy is a freak. He's better than he looks better than Ben Tate right now. I mean, he's averaging 5.55 a carry, 5.3 a carry. Tate's just out there plodding around like usual, looking like his old self. Crowell needs to be out there, man. I don't know if they just don't trust him quite yet. I don't if they're worried about it.
They spent a lot of money on Tate, so I think they have to see what they have there at the minimum.
Right. So he's definitely gonna get more and more as they go on. When you got a guy like that, you got to give him the ball. You never know; he might get suspended in a couple of weeks. They got to work him while they got him. He seems like he was a little bit of a troublemaker, but I think he's good to go. Terrence West pick. That's looking like it wasn't necessary, but you don't know you're going to get a gem like that in the 7th round. Kudos to the Cleveland Browns. It's not often I get to say that.
Yeah, absolutely right. It's been about 50 years. They're having a nice little season. That team's legit, and that defense is very good. Hoyer's been a great game manager. Anytime you can, put up 30-plus points against Pittsburgh, and your starting quarterback only makes 8 completions, that tells me something's going really well there. So I like that running game, and I like Isaiah Crowell. We're going to talk about more running backs, tight ends, wide receivers. We got a lot to get to, talking waiver wire because it's Tuesday. I'm Nick Capozzi at Nick Capozzi, Nickcapozzi. He is Tehol Beddict at Beddict143. We'll be right back. Razzball Radio, Fantasy Sports Network. Welcome back to the Razzball Radio on the Fantasy Sports Network. I'm your host, Nick Capozzi. He is Tehol Beddict, knower of many things. Now, Tehol, when I was in Seattle, when we started the tour this year, we came up to your house, and one of the guys that you were jacked up about was the guy who was going to eat. He was going to eat opposing defenses. He was going to eat touchdowns. I mean, this guy was ready to hit a buffet. Jordan Reed. Now, because Reed's been injured, which, I mean, you want to talk about M.O., because he's been injured, he's available in about 40% of leagues, which is a bit surprising because the skill is real. The problem with him is he's always hurt. What are the chances he stays on the field?
The chances, I don't know, 50-50. This guy's one of my favorite tight ends in the NFL. This guy's one of the best athletes at tight end in the whole league. Comes back, as you see, no rust, dusts him off for about 90-some yards last week, just straight back from the hospital, wherever he's coming from next. Last year he had the concussion problems. I think he's going to be okay. This stuff's just kind of lingering. We don't really know. I don't really know. I like to think I know a lot of things. The injury stuff with this guy, I was hoping for a full season. Hope he was going to be a top 5 tight end. That's not going to happen, obviously, with all the missed time, but I still think he can maybe crack the top 10, or at least going forward, he'll definitely be a top 10 tight end from this point forward. And big guy, runs the middle of the field, just owns the middle of the field. Hit him on that short stuff. He should be a huge red zone threat.
Yeah, absolutely. I like Jordan Reed, too. I'm going to put you on the spot here, Tehol. You watch a ton of college football. You're one of those plugged-in college football guys that I know when it comes to scouting for fantasy for the next year. Anyone you're watching this year that really kind of blows your mind that you think might be a really high-impact player next year for fantasy?
Yeah, well, Gurley was kind of interesting in Georgia.
Yep.
He's, although me and another guy both said kind of reminded me of Trent Richardson in college, which is Trent Richardson was a beast in college, but I'm like, is this a bad sign? I don't know, but the guy, Gordon in Wisconsin looks like an absolute monster at running back. If this was the days of old, he'd probably be a top 10 pick. I mean, this guy might sneak in the first round, which is a rarity for running backs these days. I mean, he's averaging like 9 a pop or something in big time college football. That's pretty insane, no matter how you look at it. And yeah, I like him. And yeah, there's a lot of interesting guys. There's not a ton of. I mean, Mariota could be an interesting QB prospect if he's starting.
I wonder though
from day
if he's
one.
just a product of the system. That's the one thing I worry with guys coming out of Oregon.
He kind of he does. Everyone says he reminds him of Kaepernick, probably just because maybe his skin tone is similar and he's a similar height. He can run. Like I don't know. They're probably not the same player, but they do have some similar characteristics. And I think he'll be good, but we'll see. There's nobody that's really blowing my mind right now, wide receiver that I'm sold on is going to be a major impact next season.
All right, here's a guy who can run. Speaking of running, Tennessee's been a dumpster fire. I mean, they've been ugly. 20.9 yards per reception for Justin Hunter. And this is what surprised me because there was so much hype coming into the season about Justin Hunter. Great leaper, blazing speed, soft hands, 55% ownership. You picking up Justin Hunter right now?
55 it dropped to. Wow, that's embarrassing. See, I was sold on this guy. I'm drafting him everywhere this year. I'm taking him in the 6th, 7th. I'm reaching on him to make sure I get him. Jake Blocker throwing the bombs. What do we got now? We got Jesus or whatever. Check down Charlie White. Whatever Charlie Whitehurst goes by these days. The guy is a bum. With whatever they paid at $4 million to be a backup there is a disgrace of the century. But he dropped that far because he's just been terrible. I was angry. I said drop him.
It's not that he's been terrible. It's the offense has been terrible.
He had a couple drops early on, but yeah, not on these bombs. So yeah, but lately, Whitehurst got him for the bomb the other day, although he got most of it after the catch for 75-yard touchdown 2 weeks ago. Last week he had 77 yards on only 3 catches. Didn't get a TD. But these next two opposing defenses look like Washington and Houston, and that's looking like a real tasty morsel to a monster like Jay Hunter, and I feel like he's bound to go deep at least once.
Do you think Mettenberger gets in there quarterback over Whitehurst at some point? Because I think with his arm, that would benefit a guy like Justin Hunter.
If this season if they keep losing, like, they pulled out the squeak or they really battled Jacksonville at home to pull out that big-time victory there for Wisconsin. But, yeah, they're going to go to him, especially if they're out, as soon as they're probably out of the playoff type thing. I don't know what's up with Locker. I haven't read the most recent reports, but I'd like to see Mettenberger out there because one thing, he's going to be throwing bombs at Justin Hunter. 80% of them might be incomplete, but he's going to get one here and there, and I wouldn't mind that.
All right, here's a guy with another really purdy yard per catch, and that's Brendan LaFell, 18.8, only 8% owned. Now, this guy always had the talent in Carolina, and I'm starting to wonder if it was a product of that system in Carolina that kind of held him back, but he's obviously been very interesting for the New England Patriots. Now, anytime I talk about a Patriot receiver, I get a little bit nervous. Nervous. But Brandon LaFell, you like him this year?
I kind of had him on here on this list as just kind of like a guy, if you're desperate and you want to get somebody in there, because obviously they've got a nice little connection there. Over the last 3 weeks, he had 8 targets and 4 and then 8 again. He had the big game in the, their blowout loss against Kansas City. That's kind of a tough one to gauge. But this last game, another 8 targets, the long TD. I mean, he's kind of their only deep threat at receiver. I never really figured him for a deep threat. He was kind of an intermediate guy. I thought Edelman's kind of now the guy that's getting all the underneath stuff, and they're using LaFell a little bit downfield. So he's intriguing. I'm not expecting anything crazy, but he does look pretty good, and he plays in New England.
Yeah,
nice offense.
Yes, well, debatable, but a nice offense last couple weeks anyway, and partly because he's emerged. So he's an interesting guy. At 8% ownership, I mean, there's a lot of guys I'd rather have ahead of him. I mean, Mohamed Sanu's available in almost half the leagues, which blows my mind. But LaFell...
I would have mentioned, I didn't know, I just figured everyone and their mom owns Sanu after A.J. Green is out. Marvin Jones is still out. He's not coming back. How is AJ? How is Cindy only owned at 50% of leagues? Get out there, add this guy. Are you kidding me? 50% of leagues.
Tehol, we got to go to break, but we'll come back. We got more Patriots to talk about, including the running back situation. Razzball Radio, Fantasy Sports Network. Welcome back, Razzball Radio on the Fantasy Sports Network. I'm your host, Nick Capozzi. He is Tehol Beddict. Follow him on Twitter at Beddict, BEDDICT143. Okay, we talked about Brandon LaFell before the break. Now let's talk about the running back situation in New England. Obviously now Ridley done for the season. Brandon Bolden and James White both 3% owned, which is kind of interesting to me. Who are you liking there? I'll tell you who I like first. I'm going to take Bolden, and the reason is that when he did get the opportunity over the last 2 years, both in 2013 and 2012, he averaged 4.9 yards per carry. I think he's more likely, based on the experience, to get the opportunity. But James White, the one thing that's interesting about him is he's fumbled twice in his entire college career at Wisconsin. We talked about Gordon earlier. Wisconsin has a track record of producing running backs. Which of those two guys would you rather have?
Well, it's a tough call. The Ridley injury is obviously devastating. Last week thought I got a steal, picked up Ridley and Noshawn Marino off waivers. Look, what do you know? They're both out for the year today. Thanks for the great news this morning. That made me feel really good. But I'm a big fan. I'm not a huge fan of Bolden. He's a plotter. He's kind of, when they had him and LeGarrette Blount, I'm like, are these guys? Is this the same dude? Except Bolden's not as good. I mean, I don't know. Averaging 1.8 a carry. He only has 15 carries this year. I'm not his biggest fan, but like you said, he's been in the system. He's produced in the past. Belichick trusts him. There's just the hype for White was just huge preseason fantasy.
Well, it's because he was running with the first team in preseason, I think. Yeah. So that's why people were taking note.
Well, we'll find out pretty quick here. I mean, like you said, I think Bolden's probably the favorite early on. If he struggles, I wouldn't be surprised if they made a quick switch to White, or if he starts getting a couple carries here and there. And if he produces, he's going to go. Belichick's going to go to him if he looks good, especially since, as you mentioned again, he doesn't fumble the ball.
Yeah. All right. Torrey Smith is owned in most leagues, actually 77% of leagues. But you've got him on the list. He looked terrible. I mean, he was not very good at the beginning of the season. He had 2 touchdowns against Tampa Bay, but they were both in the first quarter when Flacco was going wacko. I'm not buying Torrey Smith. You got to explain to me why you got him on this list, brother.
He's on this list because in like 3 of my RCL leagues, dudes are just I'm like going on my available player list, trying to set my lineup, and I'm like, I see Torrey Smith just sitting there. I'm like, what is going on here? Like, this shouldn't even be allowed. You cannot drop Torrey. You can't just drop Torrey Smith unless you're absolutely loaded at wide receiver. It's been a terrible start for him. Like, last year was a struggle too. The guy draws all these pass interference calls, but seemingly never actually comes down with the bomb because they're grabbing him. I like the breakout coming. People keep asking me, should I dump him? Should I do this? No, I like him to break it. I mean, Steve Smith, he finally has someone on the other side. Steve Smith has obviously got to be respected now, as he's been going off like almost every week other than the week before this. And, I just like him. He's one of the best deep threats in the NFL.
Yeah, but he's just a straight line runner. That's all he does. He just goes straight. He's got no, the guy can't run a route correctly. At least that's what Joe Flacco was saying earlier.
When did what?
Yeah, man, week 2, Flacco called him out.
Oh, man, well, hopefully it lit a fire under his rear, because the guy, I've seen him run crossing routes. I've seen him do that stuff. They just got to get him the ball. He's a talent, man. I like the deep threat. Flacco got one of the best deep balls in the game. He's got to be out there. He should be getting at least a deep ball every day. If I could get him, and if you don't want him, if all those in my RCL league, please keep dropping him or trading him me for some bum, and I'll take him off your hands.
All right, here's another guy that is criminally under-owned, 23%, Malcolm Floyd. Don't confuse him with Michael Floyd. I think I love Michael Floyd, but I think right now I'd rather have Malcolm Floyd until I know what's going on with Carson Palmer. He was okay this week, but you talk about a nerve injury in the shoulder, it makes me a little bit nervous. Malcolm Floyd, go get him, right?
Yeah, Carson's out there looking a little limp-wristed. Yeah, Malcolm Floyd, I like him, man. He was a bigger name a couple years ago, back when they had him and B-Jax on the outside post, the big guys going deep. He's kind of a rare situation where you got two tall guys like that, or they used to anyway. Now everyone was hyped on Keenan Allen. Everyone, Gates was still there, even though Gates was low this year. And the other tight end, Keenan Allen was supposed to be this breakout star. I mean, he was a breakout star as a rookie last year, so that's why it's shocking. His fall is more shocking than Malcolm Floyd being good. And it's also shocking that Malcolm Floyd's only owned in that percent of leagues because the guy's been going off a touchdown in each of the last 3 weeks. I mean, how is he only owned in 22% of leagues, especially since he's going to go against the Raiders last week? You got to pick him up there.
All right. I think the issue with Keenan Allen is that sophomore slumps are real. I do believe that. I think sometimes guys, their first year, have a great, breakout rookie season, rest on their laurels a little bit. They think they've arrived, but you got to be hungry. You got to keep working. Speaking of hungry, this is a guy who's bounced around on a bunch of teams, which surprises me because he's huge, he's talented. He finally got the opportunity this week. 8% owned Andre Holmes.
Oh, Andre Holmes. That is my boy. I've been loving this guy. You see him in preseason. You see him at the end of last season and the year before. This guy's always kind of hanging around. You're like, how is this guy not a star? You see him just beasting on people in preseason, looking like Dez Bryant. I mean, he does it. He looks like him. I mean, he is big dude. He's a beast.
Dez Bryant.
What if he played on a better – I mean, this guy's been playing in Oakland. Dez Bryant. I mean, he's not a Dez Bryant. I'm saying he kind of reminds me of Dez Bryant.
Yeah, he's a Dez Bryant ultra light.
I mean, if you say so, but I mean, I'm just glad he's in the starting. I mean, when I see him getting an early touchdown, especially a bomb, that makes me feel good because I've just been like, why is this dude not playing? I mean, I understand they got James Jones in there now, but I mean, Kreiner and some of these other guys, it's like these people don't excite me. You got to get this guy in the game. So hopefully he's figured out whatever it is, and Carr maybe grows kind of a connection with him. Maybe starts hitting it deep.
Carr's got to get the ball into his hands, and if he does, the upside is definitely there. Speaking of upside, he's always got it. He's pure upside all the time. He's Tehol Beddict, at Beddict143 on Twitter. I'm Nick Capozzi, at Nick Capozzi, NickCapozzi. You got questions? We got answers for you, people. All right, Tehol, thanks for joining us. We will see you next Tuesday. Tomorrow we'll have Seth, the sportsman, Seth Klein, talking injuries. We'll break down some more of these injuries, give you a little bit more information, and good luck with your waiver wire pickups today. Go ahead. Spend your fab. We're running out of time. Spend it now. Spend money. All right, this is Razzball Radio on the Fantasy Sports Network. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow.